The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by living beings. It floated in the darkness of space, orbiting a dying star called the Nexus. Inside its walls, the leaders of 47 conquered species gathered to discuss the fate of worlds. They had been doing this for 10,000 years. They had never been wrong. They had never been stopped. High Overlord Vorn sat on a throne made from the bones of a species that no longer existed. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and eyes that glowed like burning coals. His people, the Dominion, had ruled the galaxy for longer than most species had existed. He looked down at the gathered ambassadors with the bored expression of someone who already knew how every vote would end. "We will now discuss the matter of Sector 7G, Vorn said. His voice echoed through the massive chamber. The uncharted region containing the planet called Earth. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a small blue planet covered in water and green land. White clouds moved slowly across its surface. It looked peaceful. It looked weak. Our scouts have studied this world for 200 cycles, Vorn continued. The dominant species calls itself human. They are primitive. They have only recently discovered how to leave their own planet. They fight among themselves constantly. They are divided into hundreds of small tribes they call nations. They will fall within days. Ambassador KL, Vorn's most trusted advisor, shifted in his seat. He had read the full reports on humans. Something about them made him uncomfortable, though he could not say what. The planet is rich in resources, Vorn said. Water, minerals, and most importantly, the humans themselves will make excellent slaves. They are adaptable. They can survive in conditions that would kill most species. They breed quickly. They are perfect. The ambassadors nodded. They had heard speeches like this many times before. New species were discovered. New species were conquered. New species became slaves or food, or simply ceased to exist. This was the way of things. I move that we approve the invasion of Earth, Vorn said. All in favor. The lights went out. Every light in the Grand Hall, every glowing screen, every hologram disappeared at once. The chamber fell into complete darkness. Ambassadors cried out in fear. Guards raised their weapons but could see nothing to shoot. Then the cold came. It started slowly, a small chill in the air. But it grew quickly until every being in the room could see their own breath forming clouds in front of their faces. Frost began to spread across the walls. Ice crystals formed on Vorn's throne. What is happening? Vorn demanded. His voice did not echo anymore. The darkness seemed to swallow sound itself. A light appeared. It was not like any light the council had seen before. It was soft and golden, like sunlight through clouds. It moved slowly through the chamber, floating above the heads of the terrified ambassadors. As it moved, the darkness pulled away from it. The light stopped in the center of the room, where the hologram of Earth had been. Then, it began to change. It grew larger. It took shape. Arms appeared. A head, something that might have been a face. The Watcher had come. Every species in the galaxy knew stories about the Watcher. It was said to be older than the stars themselves. It had existed before the first planets formed. It had watched the universe grow from hot chaos into cold order. Some said it was a god. Others said it was the last survivor of a race so ancient that even their name had been forgotten. No one had seen the Watcher in 3,000 years. Many believed it was just a myth, a story told to frighten children. It was not a myth. The Watcher's form was not solid. It was made of light and energy and something else that the ambassadors could not understand. Looking at it hurt their eyes. Looking away was impossible. High Overlord Vorn. The Watcher's voice did not come from any direction. It came from everywhere, at once. It came from inside their heads. Leader of the Dominion. Conqueror of the weak. Destroyer of the innocent. Vorn stood from his throne. His legs were shaking, but his pride would not let him show fear. You dare interrupt the council? You dare come here uninvited? I go where I wish. I speak when I must. The Watcher moved closer to Vorn. The temperature dropped even further. And I must speak now. Then speak and leave, Vorn said. We have important matters to discuss. Yes, Earth. The small blue world. The humans. The Watcher's form flickered. That is why I have come. To warn you. Warn us? Vorn laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. Warn us about what? A species that still uses chemical rockets? A species that cannot even stop fighting itself? You come to warn the Dominion about them? Yes. The single word silenced Vorn's laughter. I have existed for billions of years, the Watcher said. I have witnessed the birth of 1,000 empires. I have mourned the death of 10,000 more. I have seen species rise to become gods, and I have watched them crumble to dust. I have seen horrors that would break your small mind. I have seen wonders that would make you weep with joy. The Watcher moved through the chamber. Every ambassador it passed felt a cold so deep it reached their souls. In all my eons of existence, the Watcher continued, in all my countless ages of watching and waiting, only one world has ever made me feel fear. The Watcher stopped moving. Its form grew brighter. Earth. Silence filled the chamber. No one moved. No one breathed. Do not provoke that world, the Watcher said. Do not wake humanity from its peaceful slumber. They are sleeping now. They fight among themselves because they have no one else to fight. But if you give them a common enemy, if you threaten what they love, they will unite. And when humanity unites, the galaxy will burn. Vorn forced himself to laugh again. You are old and mad. Humans are primitive animals. I watched them split the atom and use it to destroy their own cities, the Watcher interrupted. I watched them walk on their moon, just to prove they could. I watched them cure diseases that killed millions. I watched them build thinking machines. I watched them do all this in less than 100 years. They do not grow slowly like other species. They do not change over thousands of generations. They evolve in decades. They adapt in years. They overcome in days. The Watcher's light began to fade. You have conquered many species, the Watcher said. Species that accepted their fate. Species that surrendered. Species that had forgotten how to fight. Humans have never forgotten. They have spent their entire existence fighting. Their planet tried to kill them with ice and fire and plague. They survived. They fought each other with sticks and stones and swords and bombs. They survived. Nothing has ever broken them. Not time. Not nature. Not themselves. The Watcher began to disappear. I have given my warning. The choice is yours. But know this, High Overlord Vorn. If you attack Earth, I will not help you. I will not save you. I will simply watch. As I always have. While humanity teaches the galaxy why even the oldest being in existence learned to fear a small blue world. The Watcher vanished. The lights returned. The cold faded. The Grand Hall was exactly as it had been before. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Vorn sat back on his throne and laughed. This time, other ambassadors joined him. The fear faded from the room, replaced by the comfortable arrogance they had always known. The Watcher has grown senile in its old age, Vorn declared. Humans are nothing. They will fall like all the others. Only Ambassador KL did not laugh. He sat quietly in his seat, his hands trembling slightly. He had recorded the entire encounter on a device hidden in his robe. Something told him he would need that recording someday. The vote, Vorn said. All in favor of invading Earth? Every hand in the chamber rose. Then it is decided. Prepare the fleet. We attack within 30 cycles. Far away, on the small blue planet called Earth. The humans went about their ordinary lives. They worked and played and loved and fought. They had no idea that their world had just been sentenced to destruction. They had no idea that they were about to remind the galaxy why they should have listened to the warning. The sky above Seoul was clear and blue on the morning the aliens came. Children were walking to school. Workers were drinking coffee and complaining about traffic. An old woman was feeding pigeons in a park near the Han River. It was an ordinary day on an ordinary planet. Then the ships appeared. They came out of nowhere, filling the sky like dark clouds. 500 warships, each one larger than a city. They blocked out the sun and cast shadows over the entire Korean peninsula. Similar fleets appeared above New York, London, Beijing, Sydney, and every major city on Earth. Admiral Hana Park was in the United Earth Command Center when the alarms started screaming. She was 53 years old. With gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much death, she had commanded forces in 3 wars and had never lost a battle. But she had never faced anything like this. "Report," she said calmly. Her voice did not shake. Her hands did not tremble. 5,000 alien vessels in orbit, Admiral. Her aide reported. They appeared simultaneously above every continent. No warning. No communication. They just appeared. Hana watched the screens showing the massive ships hovering above Earth. She had known this day would come. Humanity had detected alien signals 20 years ago. They had found evidence of intelligent life beyond Earth. The governments of the world had agreed to keep it secret. They had agreed to prepare. Project Horizon was born that day. "Have they made contact?" Hana asked. "They are broadcasting now, Admiral. On every frequency, every language. Show me." The screen changed to show the face of Commander Thess, military leader of the alien invasion fleet. He was a massive creature with thick gray skin and 4 arms. His eyes were pure black. When he spoke, his voice was translated into hundreds of human languages simultaneously. "People of Earth, I am Commander Thess of the Dominion. Your planet has been claimed by the Galactic Council. You have 1 rotation of your world to surrender completely. All weapons must be destroyed. All military forces must disband. All governments must step down." Thess paused. A cruel smile crossed his alien face. "To help you understand your situation, we will show you what happens to species that resist." The broadcast changed. Now it showed images of other worlds. Beautiful planets with purple skies and crystal oceans. Then it showed those same planets burning. Cities reduced to ash, people running and screaming, bodies piled in the streets. "This was Kellar Prime," Thess narrated. "They resisted for 7 days. Now their species exists only as slaves in our minds. More images, more death, more destruction. This was New Harmony. They resisted for 12 days. Now their world is a graveyard. We keep it as a warning to others." The images continued. Planet after planet. Species after species. All conquered. All destroyed or enslaved. "You have 1 rotation," Thess repeated. "Surrender or die. There is no third option." The broadcast ended. Around the world, panic spread. People ran into the streets. Governments held emergency meetings. Religious leaders called for prayer. Military forces mobilized but knew they could not win. In the United Earth Command Center, Admiral Hana Park stood very still. She watched the screens showing the alien fleet. She remembered her grandmother, a small woman with strong hands, who had survived the Korean War as a child. Her grandmother had told her stories about those times. About hunger. About cold. About fear. But most of all, her grandmother had told her about survival. "Koreans do not break," her grandmother always said. "We bend like bamboo in the wind. But we never break. And when the wind stops, we stand tall again." Hana opened a channel to every military base on Earth. Her face appeared on screens in Pentagon war rooms and Chinese military bunkers and European defense centers. "This is Admiral Hana Park, Supreme Commander of United Earth Forces," she said. "I know you are afraid. I know the enemy seems impossible to defeat. I know that every logical calculation says we cannot win this fight." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "But logic does not know humans. Logic does not know what we have survived. Ice ages. Plagues. Wars that killed millions. We are still here. We have always been here. And we will still be here long after these invaders have learned their mistake." In underground bunkers around the world, soldiers listened. In submarines hiding in ocean depths, crews gathered around screens. In secret bases that did not officially exist, pilots stood ready beside aircraft that should not have been possible. For 20 years, we have known this day would come, Hana continued. For 20 years, we have prepared. Project Horizon is now active. All Horizon assets are authorized for deployment. The enemy expects surrender. They will get war. In a laboratory deep beneath the Swiss mountains, Dr. Wu Sik heard the Admiral's words and smiled. He was a thin man, with glasses and messy hair, and he had spent his entire adult life working on weapons that everyone hoped would never be needed. Now they were needed. Begin activation sequence, he said to his team. It's time to show these visitors what human science can do. Around Earth, satellites that had been disguised as communication relays began to unfold. Hidden weapons platforms emerged from underground silos. Ships that had been built in secret launched from underwater bases. Captain Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the ESS Unity, the flagship of Earth's first defense fleet. He was young for a captain, only 35, but he had been chosen for this moment because of his ability to think in ways the enemy could not predict. All ships report ready, his first officer said. Then let us go introduce ourselves, Tae-sung replied. The human fleet rose from Earth like a swarm of angry bees. They were smaller than the alien ships. They were fewer in number. But they moved with a purpose that made Commander Thess pause. What is this? Thess demanded. They were supposed to surrender. Their ships are approaching, Commander, his aide reported. They are not broadcasting surrender signals. They appear to be taking offensive positions. Thess laughed. Foolish creatures. They think they can fight? Let them come. Let them die. Let them die. Captain Tae-sung's face appeared on the alien command screen. He was smiling. Commander Thess, Tae-sung said. Admiral Park has asked me to deliver a message. A message of surrender? No, a message of coordinates. Data appeared on Thess's screen. Navigation data. A path leading away from Earth, out of the solar system. What is this? Thess growled. The route for your retreat, Tae-sung said. The Admiral suggests you use it. She has also asked me to give you this. More data appeared. A countdown. Starting at 60 minutes. What happens when the countdown ends? Thess asked. Tae-sung's smile grew wider. We stop being polite. The communication ended. Thess stared at the countdown. 59 minutes and falling. He had conquered 17 worlds. He had destroyed entire civilizations. No species had ever threatened him. No species had ever dared. These humans were either very brave or very stupid. Thess decided they were stupid. Ignore the countdown, he ordered. Begin planetary bombardment. Target their largest cities. Show them what happens to species that refuse to surrender. The alien fleet moved into attack formation, their weapons charged, their targeting systems locked onto the cities below. On the ESS Unity, Captain Tae-sung watched the enemy ships prepare to fire. He felt no fear. He had been training for this moment his entire life. Every simulation, every exercise, every sleepless night studying alien technology had led to this. Captain, his first officer said, they are targeting civilian population centers. Then let us give them something else to target, Tae-sung replied. All ships, execute pattern sunrise. The human fleet exploded into motion. Ships scattered in all directions, then curved back toward the alien fleet. They were fast. Much faster than the alien sensors had predicted. They moved in patterns that seemed chaotic but were actually perfectly coordinated. The first shots of the war were fired, and somewhere in the darkness of space, the Watcher observed everything. It felt something it had not felt in millions of years. Anticipation. The warning had been given. The warning had been ignored. Now the galaxy would learn what humans truly were. The countdown continued. 52 minutes. 51. 50. The war for Earth had begun. The battle of Seoul began with fire and death. Commander Thess commanded his fleet to unleash everything they had. Beams of plasma burned through the darkness. Missiles that could crack planets flew toward Earth. The alien weapons had destroyed civilizations. They had turned worlds to ash. The human ships should have been vaporized in seconds. They were not. Captain Taesung's fleet danced between the enemy attacks like leaves in a hurricane. Their ships were smaller. Yes. Weaker, certainly, but they moved with a speed and precision that confused the alien targeting systems. The Dominion had conquered species that fought in straight lines, that followed predictable patterns. Humans did not fight like that. They are not where our weapons fire, an alien gunner reported, his voice filled with confusion. They move before we shoot. How do they know? They knew because humans had spent thousands of years learning to predict enemies. From ancient battles with swords and spears to modern wars with missiles and drones, humanity had perfected the art of knowing where not to be. But the alien numbers were too great. For every shot the humans dodged, 10 more came behind it. Ships began to fall. The ESS Defiance. The ESS Courage. The ESS Hope. One by one, human vessels exploded into flame. "We are losing ships, Captain," the first officer reported. "I know," Taesung replied. His face was stone. His heart was breaking. Every ship lost was a crew of his people. Friends. Family. Hold the line. The countdown continues. 41 minutes. On the surface of Earth, the bombardment had begun. Alien weapons rained down on cities. Seoul. Tokyo. London. New York. Buildings crumbled. People screamed. The world burned. Admiral Hannah Park watched the destruction from her command center. She saw the death counts rising. Thousands. Then hundreds of thousands. Each number was a life. A story. A future that would never happen. Her hands shook slightly as she gave her next order. "Evacuate the cities. Move everyone underground. Our shelters must hold." "Admiral, the casualties." "I know the casualties." Hannah's voice cracked. "I know what we are losing. But we must survive long enough for Horizon to deploy. Every minute we buy is a chance for victory." General Daeho stood in the streets of Seoul as alien soldiers began landing. He was 60 years old. Built like a tank. With scars from wars most people had forgotten. He had led troops in deserts and jungles and frozen mountains. But he had never fought aliens. He decided it did not matter. Enemies were enemies. You killed them, or they killed you. The species did not change that fact. "They are landing in Yongsan," his lieutenant reported. "Heavy forces. They expect us to run." "Then they do not know us," Daeho said. He raised his rifle. "All units. Welcome, our guests." The aliens walked through the streets of Seoul expecting terrified civilians hiding in corners. They expected quick surrender. They expected easy victory. Instead, they found war. Every building had been fortified. Every street had been trapped. Citizens who had been evacuating suddenly turned and fought. Grandmothers threw grenades. Students fired weapons they had learned to use in secret training programs. Children guided soldiers through tunnel systems built beneath the city. The aliens fell by dozens, then by hundreds. "What is happening?" a squad leader screamed into his communication device. "They are everywhere. They are fighting like demons." Commander Thess received the reports from the ground with growing anger. His soldiers were dying. His invasion was stalling. And the countdown continued. 29 minutes. "Destroy the planet," Thess ordered. "Use the primary weapons. Burn it all." "Commander, if we use the planet killers, we will destroy the resources we came to claim." "I do not care about resources. I care about teaching these humans what happens when they defy the Dominion." The alien flagship began charging its main weapon. It was a device that could crack a planet's core, that could split a world in half. It had been used twice in galactic history. Both times, civilizations had ended. On the ESS Unity, alarm screamed, "Captain, they are charging a planetary destruction weapon." Taesung looked at the countdown. 18 minutes. They needed 18 more minutes. "All remaining ships," he said, his voice calm despite the fear in his heart. "Converge on the flagship. We stop that weapon. or we die trying. The human fleet threw itself at the alien flagship. Ships rammed into enemy vessels. Pilots ejected, and then flew their empty ships directly into alien engines. Humanity gave everything it had, 12 minutes. Lieutenant Mina Kang was the best pilot in the fleet. She had been flying since she was 16, had won every competition, had broken every record. Now she flew toward the alien flagship in a tiny fighter that should not have been able to survive a second in this battle. "Lieutenant, you cannot reach the weapon in time," her commander said. "Watch me," she replied. She pushed her engines beyond their limits. Warning lights screamed. Metal groaned. She did not care. She flew through gaps that should have been impossible, dodged weapons that should have killed her 10 times over. 8 minutes. She reached the flagship's weapon port just as it finished charging. She had no more missiles, no more ammunition. Just herself and her ship. "For Earth," she whispered. She aimed directly at the weapon's opening and accelerated to maximum speed. The explosion was visible from the planet below. The flagship's weapon backfired, sending energy cascading through its own systems. The massive ship cracked and began to break apart. Commander Thess screamed in rage as his bridge fell apart around him. "Impossible! One human did this. One?" 5 minutes. The countdown reached 0. In orbit, Dr. Wu-Sik watched from his screen in the Swiss laboratory. His finger hovered over a button that had taken 20 years to build. "Horizon array is ready, Admiral," he reported. Hannah Park's voice came back immediately. "Do it." Dr. Wu-Sik pressed the button. Around Earth, satellites that had seemed ordinary activated their true purpose. They connected to each other, forming a network that encircled the planet. Energy flowed between them, building, growing, becoming something new. The Horizon Array created controlled microsingularities, tiny black holes that lived for only fractions of a second. But in those fractions, they had enough gravity to tear apart anything nearby. The alien fleet had spread out to bombard Earth. Now that spread worked against them. The black holes appeared everywhere, randomly, unpredictably. Ships that had survived the human fleet suddenly found themselves being pulled apart by forces they could not see or understand. "What is this?" Thess screamed from his escape pod. "What have they done?" Ambassador Kale, watching from a scout ship far from the battle, whispered the answer to himself. "They weaponized physics itself. The alien fleet collapsed. Ships imploded. Crews vanished into singularities. In 10 minutes, 500 warships became debris floating in the void. On the ground, General Dae-ho watched the sky clear. Alien soldiers stopped fighting, staring upward in disbelief. Then they started to run. They did not get far. "Take them alive," Dae-ho ordered. "We need information." The Battle of Seoul was over. Earth had survived, but the cost was terrible. 30 million humans had died in the bombardment. Half the fleet was destroyed. Cities lay in ruins. The world was wounded. Admiral Hannah Park addressed the planet that night. Her face was tired. Her eyes were red from tears she had not let anyone see. Today we lost millions of our brothers and sisters," she said. "Today, we faced an enemy that has conquered the galaxy. Today, we bled and burned and died." She paused. "But today, we also stood together. Today, every nation, every people, every human on this planet fought as one. And today, we won." Around the world, people gathered around screens. They were exhausted. They were grieving. But they were alive. "The enemy will return," Hannah continued. "They will bring more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. And we will be waiting. Because today, humanity sent a message to the galaxy." She looked directly into the camera. "We do not surrender. We do not kneel. We do not break. Come back with your fleets. Come back with your armies. Come back with everything you have, and we will teach you the same lesson we taught you today." In the ruins of Seoul, General Dae-ho sat among his soldiers. They were dirty and wounded and tired. But they were singing. An old song about mountains and rivers and a people who never gave up. Across the planet, others joined the song. Different languages, different melodies, but the same spirit. Commander Thess, floating in his escape pod, listened to the human transmissions with growing horror. They had lost their cities. They had lost millions of lives. They should have been broken. Instead, they were singing. For the first time in his life, Commander Thess felt afraid. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Seoul. Earth was rebuilding. Cities rose from ashes. Factories worked day and night. Shipyards that had been secret were now building openly. Humanity was not just recovering. Humanity was preparing. High Overlord Vorn sat in his throne room on the Council homeworld, rage burning in his coal-red eyes. Before him stood Commander Thess, the first commander in Dominion history to lose a fleet. "You had 500 ships," Vorn said slowly. "The greatest armada ever assembled. And you were defeated by primitives who barely knew how to leave their own planet." Thess kept his eyes on the floor. "They had weapons we did not expect. They fought in ways we had never seen. They—" "Excuses!" Vorn slammed his fist on his throne. "I do not want excuses. I want victory. I want Earth burning. I want every human in chains." "We will need a larger fleet," Thess said quietly. "Much larger. Then you will have it." Vorn stood and walked to a window overlooking his empire. "I am calling ships from every sector, every colony, every outpost. 1,000 warships will gather, 10 million soldiers. We will crush Earth under the weight of our numbers." But Vorn did not know that his communications were no longer secure. Deep in the Swiss mountains, Dr. Wu-Sik had spent 3 months studying captured alien technology. Human scientists had worked without sleep, driven by fear and determination. They had learned to read alien code. They had learned to crack alien encryption. Now they could hear everything the Dominion said. "They are gathering a new fleet," Dr. Wu-Sik reported to Admiral Hannah Park. 1,000 ships at least. They will be ready within 60 days. Hannah looked at the tactical displays showing the positions of enemy forces across the galaxy. 60 days was not enough time to rebuild their defenses. 60 days was not enough time to prepare another stand. But maybe 60 days was enough time to take the fight to them. "Captain Tae-sung," she said, "how would you like to go hunting?" Tae-sung had survived the Battle of Seoul through skill and luck. His ship, the ESS Unity, had been repaired and upgraded with alien technology. He had been promoted to Commodore, given command of the new First Attack Fleet. "What is the target?" he asked. "Everything." Hannah's eyes were hard. "We are not waiting for them to come to us. We are going to hit their supply lines, their outposts, their shipyards. We are going to make them bleed until they understand that attacking Earth was the worst mistake they ever made." The human fleet launched 1 week later. 20 ships, all that could be spared. Armed with hybrid human-alien weapons, they jumped into faster-than-light travel and left the solar system behind. For the first time in human history, humanity went to war among the stars. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened on the Council homeworld. Ambassador Kale had not slept well since the day the Watcher gave its warning. He had watched the recording hundreds of times. He had seen the defeat of the invasion fleet. He had read the reports about human soldiers who fought to the last breath. About civilians who chose death over surrender. About prisoners who escaped using nothing but patience and intelligence. He began to understand why the Watcher had been afraid. In secret, Kale contacted the human forces. He did not know if they would believe him. He did not know if they would trust him. But he knew that following Vorn meant following a path to destruction. "This is Ambassador Kale of the Galactic Council," he transmitted on a hidden frequency. "I wish to defect." Captain Tae-sung received the message while his fleet was destroying an alien fuel depot. "It could be a trap," his first officer warned. "It could be," Tae-sung agreed. "But if it is real, he could tell us things that would save thousands of lives. Set a course for the meeting point. We. Unquote. The meeting took place on a dead moon in neutral space. Kale came alone, as promised. He was nervous, his 4 hands trembling slightly as he stepped off his shuttle. Tae-sung stood waiting with a squad of Marines. "You destroyed my people's fleet," KL said. "You killed thousands of Dominion soldiers. Your people tried to destroy our planet," Tae-sung replied. "They killed millions of our civilians." "Yes." KL lowered his head. "And that is why I am here. Because I do not want to see billions more die when Vorn's madness destroys everything. Why should we trust you?" KL reached into his robe and pulled out a data crystal. Because of this. The crystal contained everything. Maps of every Dominion outpost. Schedules of fleet movements. Codes for communication networks. And most importantly, locations of the slave worlds where dozens of conquered species lived in chains. "The Dominion has enslaved 46 species," Kale said. "Billions of beings who dream of freedom every night. If you free them, they will fight with you. If you give them hope, they will give you armies." Tae-sung took the crystal. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I heard the Watcher's warning. Because I saw what your people did when they should have lost. Because I believe the galaxy needs to change, and I believe humans might be the ones to change it." The Watcher appeared that night, visible only to Kale. "You listened," the ancient being said. "That is rare. Watch now. As the galaxy learns why I warned them, the human fleet struck without mercy. Using Kale's information, they appeared where they were least expected. Supply convoys vanished. Communication stations went silent. Patrol ships simply stopped reporting. Vorn grew paranoid. He saw human attacks everywhere. He pulled ships back from the front lines to protect his homeworld. He executed officers who failed to stop the raids. His empire began to crack under the pressure. General Dae-ho led the ground missions. His soldiers had been training with captured alien weapons. They were faster, stronger, and smarter than any enemy expected. The first slave world they liberated was called Valar. Its people were small, gentle beings who had been enslaved for 300 years. When the human ships arrived, the Valarians thought they were just new masters. Then Dae-ho walked into their prison camp and broke their chains. "You are free now," he told them through a translator. "No one will own you again." An old Valarian looked at him with eyes that had forgotten how to hope. "Why? What do you want from us?" Dae-ho knelt down so he was at eye level with the small alien. "We want nothing. We just know what it feels like to be told you are worth less than others. We know what it feels like to fight for your freedom. Now you are free. What you do with that freedom is your choice." The Valarians chose to fight. So did the Crestors, and the Malavi, and the Senti, and a dozen other species who had been waiting for someone to show them that resistance was possible. Within weeks, the human fleet had grown. Alien ships joined their cause. Alien soldiers trained beside human marines. The rebellion spread like fire across the galaxy. High Overlord Vorn watched his empire crumble and could not understand why. He had the largest fleet in history. He had the most powerful weapons. He had ruled for 1,000 years. "How are they doing this?" he screamed at his advisors. "How are they winning?" None of them had an answer. But Ambassador Kale, now living on a human ship as an advisor and friend, knew the answer. "Humans do not fight just to win," he told Captain Tae-sung one evening. "Most species fight for territory or resources or survival. But humans fight for ideas. Freedom. Justice. Hope. You cannot kill an idea. You cannot conquer a hope. That is why the Watcher feared your kind." Tae-sung looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was rebuilding. His family was waiting. His home was healing. "We did not ask for this war," he said quietly. "No. But perhaps you were meant to fight it." Kale put one of his 4 hands on Tae-sung's shoulder. "Perhaps the galaxy needed someone to remind it that tyranny is not inevitable. Perhaps it needed humans." Lieutenant Mina Kang had survived her attack on the flagship. She had ejected at the last moment, spending 3 days in an escape pod before being rescued. Now she commanded her own squadron, teaching young pilots the tricks that had kept her alive. "The aliens think they know how we fight," she told her students. "They have studied our tactics. They have analyzed our movements. But they will never truly understand us. Because we do not fight like machines following programs. We fight like humans. We surprise ourselves. Across the galaxy, the tide was turning. What had begun as a desperate defense had become a crusade. Species that had given up hope began to believe again. Empires that had seemed eternal began to shake. And on Earth, Admiral Hannah Park looked at the reports with tired eyes and a proud heart. "How long until we reach the Council homeworld?" she asked. 2 weeks, her aide replied, "if we maintain current progress." Hannah nodded slowly. "Then let us finish what they started. Let us show them how humanity ends wars." The final battle was coming. The Nexus star burned cold and dying against the endless black of space. Around it, the Council homeworld floated as it had for 10,000 years, protected by the greatest defensive systems ever built. No enemy had ever reached this far. No invader had ever threatened this sacred place. Until now, the human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like wolves arriving at the sheep's door. But they were not alone. Behind them came ships from 12 different species, Valarians and Crestors and Malavi, and all the others who had been freed from slavery. Together, they numbered over 300 vessels. Admiral Hannah Park stood on the bridge of the ESS Victory, the new flagship built in the fires of war. Around her, officers from 3 different species worked together with perfect coordination. It was something that had never happened before in galactic history. It was something that would never be forgotten. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Captain Tae-sung said from his position beside her. He had been promoted again. He had earned it many times over. "The defensive platforms are powering up." Lieutenant Mina Kang reported from Tactical. She had survived 3 more impossible battles since her attack on the alien flagship. Some people called her lucky, others called her the best pilot in the galaxy. "General Dae-ho confirms ground forces standing by for deployment," another officer added. Hannah took a deep breath. This was the moment everything had been leading to. 1 year of war. Millions of lives lost. Worlds burned and worlds freed. It all came down to this. "Open a channel," she said. "All frequencies. Let them hear us." The transmission went out to every ship in both fleets and every screen on the Council homeworld below. "This is Admiral Hannah Park of Earth. High Overlord Vorn. I am speaking directly to you. 1 year ago, you sent your fleet to our world. You expected us to kneel. You expected us to surrender. You expected us to accept slavery like so many others before us." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We did not kneel. We did not surrender. And now we are here. At your doorstep. With the fleet you said we could never build. And the allies you said we could never have. Your empire is broken. Your colonies have fallen. Your slaves have been freed. This war ends today." There was silence for a long moment. Then Vorn's voice came through the speakers. "You think you have won?" He was trying to sound confident, but there was fear beneath his words. "I still have 300 ships defending this system. I still have millions of soldiers. You have won battles, human. You have not won the war. We have given you a chance to surrender," Hannah replied. "We have shown mercy to every world that laid down its weapons. We offer the same to you now. End this. Stop the killing. Accept that your rule is over." "Never," Vorn screamed. "Attack. All ships attack. Destroy them." The final battle began. It was not like the Battle of Seoul. That had been desperate defense against overwhelming force. This was different. The human-led fleet moved with confidence and purpose. They knew their enemy. They knew their own strength. They knew they would win. Ships clashed in the light of the dying star. Weapons fire painted the darkness with color. Explosions blossomed like flowers of destruction. But this time, it was the Dominion ships that fell. One by one, then by dozens, they were destroyed or disabled. General Dae-ho led the assault on the planetary surface. His troops landed in the heart of the Council capital, fighting through streets that had never known war. Alien soldiers who had conquered a galaxy now found themselves facing an enemy that would not stop, would not slow, would not show the cruelty that had been shown to them. Take them alive when possible, Deho ordered. We are not them. We do not kill those who surrender. In the grand hall of the council, Vorn watched his empire collapse around him. Screens showed his ships being destroyed. Reports told of his soldiers surrendering. The species he had ruled with fear were now fighting against him alongside the humans. How? He whispered to himself. How did this happen? Ambassador KL stepped into the chamber. He was accompanied by human marines and soldiers from 3 liberated species. It happened, KL said, because you did not listen. You were warned. You were told what humanity was capable of. You laughed and ignored the warning. And now, everything you built is ending. The doors to the chamber opened. Admiral Hana Park walked in, flanked by Captain Tae Sung and Lieutenant Mina Kang. General Dae Ho came behind them with his soldiers. Representatives of the freed species followed. Vorn looked at them all, his red eyes burning with hate and fear. Kill me then, he said. That is what conquerors do. Kill the old ruler and take his place. Hana walked slowly toward the throne made of bones. She looked at it with disgust. Then she looked at Vorn. No. Vorn blinked. No? No? We are not going to kill you, Hana said. That is what you would do. That is what you expected us to do. But we are not like you. She turned to face everyone in the chamber, her voice carrying to every corner. Humanity did not fight this war for conquest. We did not free slave worlds so we could become new masters. We did not defeat the Dominion so we could take its place. She looked back at Vorn. You will live. You will watch as the species you conquered build their own governments, choose their own futures, live their own lives. You will see your slaves become equals. You will see the empire you built on blood and fear become something new, something better. Vorn's face twisted with confusion. You are fools. If you do not destroy your enemies, they will rise again. They will, maybe, Hana interrupted. Maybe someday there will be those who choose tyranny again. But we would rather take that risk than become the thing we fought against. That is what makes us different. That is what makes us human. Dr. Wu Sik stepped forward with a device in his hands. This will ensure you cannot harm anyone again. It will limit your movements to this world. You will be comfortable. You will be fed, but you will never command another fleet. You will never order another death. Vorn opened his mouth to protest, but the device was activated. He felt his power drain away. His connection to his armies, his spies, his weapons, all of it simply stopped. He fell to his knees before the throne of bones, not in submission, but in disbelief. He had been defeated. He had been captured, and instead of the death he expected, he had been given something far worse. He had been made irrelevant. The Watcher appeared, the ancient being materialized in the center of the grand hall, its form of light and energy filling the chamber with golden warmth. Every being present felt its presence. Every heart, organic or otherwise, paused. I have watched this galaxy for billions of years, the Watcher said. I have seen empires rise on the corpses of the fallen. I have seen victory celebrated with blood. I have seen conquerors become the conquered in endless cycles of violence. The Watcher moved through the chamber, stopping before each group of beings. Today, I see something new. Today, I see a species that fought not for territory but for freedom. Not for power but for justice. Today, I see humans who had every reason to become monsters, choose to remain something better. The Watcher stopped before Admiral Hana Park. You asked nothing for yourselves. You demanded no tribute. You claimed no throne. Why? Hana met the ancient being's gaze without fear. Because that is not who we are, she said simply. We fight when we must. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. And when the fighting is done, we go home. We do not need to rule the galaxy. We just need to make sure the galaxy is worth living in. The Watcher was silent for a long moment. For billions of years, I have wondered if the universe would ever produce beings worthy of the stars. It finally said, "Today, I have my answer." The watcher began to fade. I will continue to watch. But now, for the first time in all my existence, I watch with hope instead of fear. Guard this gift you have given the galaxy. Humans, it is more precious than you know. The watcher vanished. 1 month later, the first session of the new Galactic Assembly was held in the same chamber where the Council had once met, but the throne of bones had been removed. In its place was a simple round table, where representatives of all species sat as equals. Admiral Hannah Park was there, but she sat among the others, not above them. Earth had been offered leadership of the new order. They had declined. "We will be partners," Hannah had said. "Not masters. The old way of doing things is over." Dr. Wusik had returned to Earth to lead the reconstruction efforts. Cities were being rebuilt. Families were healing. Life was returning to normal. Or at least a new kind of normal. Captain Tae-sung commanded the joint fleet that patrolled the peaceful lanes of travel between worlds. His ships flew beside vessels from 12 different species. They protected trade routes and answered distress calls and slowly built trust between beings who had once been enemies. Lieutenant Mina Kang ran a flight academy on Earth and on 3 other worlds. She taught young pilots from many species the techniques that had kept her alive. She taught them something else too. That bravery was not about being unafraid, but about doing what was right even when you were terrified. General Dae-ho retired to a small farm in Korea. He grew vegetables and kept chickens, and tried very hard not to think about the wars he had fought. Sometimes former soldiers visited him, humans and aliens alike, and he would cook them dinner and tell them stories and remind them that peace was worth fighting for. Ambassador Kale became the chief diplomat between the new Federation and the remnants of the Dominion. Most of the old ruling class had fled or been imprisoned, but many ordinary citizens remained, confused and frightened about their place in this new galaxy. Kale helped them understand that they did not have to be defined by what their leaders had done. And High Overlord Vorn sat in a simple room on the Council homeworld, watching through his window as the species he had conquered built a future without him. He was given food and shelter and visitors who tried to help him understand what had happened. Some days he listened. Most days he simply stared at nothing. He had wanted to rule the galaxy. Now he could only watch it change. Earth became a symbol, but not the capital. There was no capital. The assembly moved between worlds, meeting in different places, reminding everyone that no single planet was more important than others. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had freed it. And in doing so, they had changed themselves as well. The old divisions between nations and peoples seemed smaller now. The old grudges seemed less important. When you have stood beside strangers against a common enemy, when you have bled together and grieved together and triumphed together, the things that once divided you fade away. On the first anniversary of the Battle of Seoul, Admiral Hannah Park stood at a memorial built in Seoul. It listed the names of every human who had died in the war. There were millions of names. Each one was a loss. Each one was a hero. She spoke to the crowd gathered before her. "We did not choose this war. We did not want it. But when it came, we rose to meet it. Not because we are special, not because we are stronger or smarter than other species, but because we refused to accept that cruelty and tyranny were inevitable." She looked at the sky, where ships from many worlds passed peacefully overhead. The galaxy is not perfect. It will never be perfect. There will be new challenges, new threats, new problems to solve. But we face them together now. All of us. Human and alien, old enemies and new friends. She smiled, and for the first time in a year, it reached her eyes. We were warned not to provoke Earth. They should have listened. But I am glad they did not. Because if they had, the galaxy would still be ruled by fear. If they had, millions of beings would still be slaves. If they had, nothing would have changed. She turned back to the memorial and placed her hand on the cold stone. We lost so much. We suffered so much. But we built something worth the cost. A galaxy where anyone can be free. A universe where hope is stronger than fear. That is what we fought for. That is what they died for. And we will honor their sacrifice by making sure it was not in vain. Far away, in the darkness between stars, the Watcher observed everything. It had seen the birth and death of countless civilizations. It had witnessed horrors and wonders beyond counting. And now, for the first time in billions of years, it felt something new: pride. The small blue world had proven worthy of the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same.